Everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Hart Hustle Podcast. I'm super excited to have my boy Dorian in the house today.
What's going on, y'all?
Because me and you met actually, why don't you give us an introduction to yourself and talk about how we met, actually?
Yeah, so my name is Dorian Warmsley. I'm a fitness coach here in Las Vegas. I recently started training your sister, Alexa. Shout out to Alexa for connecting us. And through our first session, I just spoke to her, get a feel for what she does for work, all these things. She mentioned your guys' mental health company that you started. So then I shared my background when it comes to mental health. After about a week of me and her getting to know each other, she connected me and you, thinking we'd be a good fit, similar mindsets and things of that nature. So then we met, got coffee. Somehow, some way, it turned in from a coffee to like a 3.5-hour conversation just about life, which was amazing. And then here we are a week later.
Yeah, man. And the reason why I thought it would be so beneficial, because Alexa was like, hey, man, I just got this new personal trainer. You have to meet him. His life story is absolutely crazy. And one of the things of why we record this podcast is to give people an understanding of life in itself gives us lots of hardships, and we're always going to be dealt a different hand. But the way we bounce back from those things is super important. And that's why I really wanted to have you on the show today, because you have an inspirational story about the things that you've been through, just in life in general, not beyond the incident that we'll talk about today, but all the other things that we've come across. So I think it's going to be incredibly valuable for you just to share your insights about what it's really like to have the hustle to be successful. But beyond that, when we have hardships in our life, what it takes from a heart perspective, right, to be able to kind of overcome those huge challenges. So why don't we kind of, get into it? Why don't you share a little bit about your background, your story, and let's rock.
Yeah, so I'm originally from Orange County, California, just outside of a city called Fullerton. So for those who don't know where it's at, I grew up pretty much about 20 minutes from Disneyland. So as a kid, going to Disneyland all the time, it's nothing new to me. Went through a lot, kind of over it. But growing up there, at the age of about 10, me and my family became homeless. So me and my mom, my younger sister, from age 10 to about 12, about 3 years, we were just living in hotels. Hotel to hotel. My mom would go stay at the shelter sometimes, and then I would stay with my friends. And at the time, I thought it was fun. I get to stay with my homies, stay the night with my friends. When you're that young, it's just fun. Then she moved us here to Las Vegas when I was in about 7th grade, so about 04. And once we moved here, things just turned up for the better. She got a job. She was working at 99-cent store, making $6.15 an hour, full-time, and was just grinding. Got us an apartment. Stepdad got a job, got a bigger apartment, and we just moved up, and things progressively got better. Once I graduated high school, didn't really know where I was going to go, what I was going to do. Nobody in my life, uncles, aunts, uncles, nobody went to college or anything like that. No real role model to or follow through with. So I just got into partying. I liked playing basketball, but never had no guidance to how to go to college with basketball or anything like that, training or what to look for, how to get into a junior college. So once I graduated high school, I used to live by UNLV, so I began meeting a lot of people who went to UNLV and just started partying, man, to be honest. College parties, frat parties, football parties, volleyball girl parties, just party all week, Thursday through Sunday. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, kind of just do whatever. Working little jobs here and there, retail, just enough to have money in my pocket and just living at home. And then in 2014, hanging out with some friends. At this point in my life, I had just got done experimenting with cocaine. I was on a crazy 6 to 7 month binge of it, to where I was just doing it all the time and drinking. And at this point, the end of 2014, I decided to just stop doing it because my stomach started getting messed up, and I just made a conscious decision, I got to cut this shit out. I'm turning into a crackhead in my eyes. So one night it was a friend's birthday party, and his girlfriend got him a party bus. They lived in a complex called Rebel Place, which you're familiar with.
Oh, yeah.
It's off-campus living for students. They lived on the 4th floor. So we go out for the party bus, and that was the last thing I remember. I woke up in the hospital. I was tied to the bed. I looked around, and I'm like, wait, what? It was like a magic trick. You know what I mean? It felt fake. I was on a party bus, and then I woke up, and I was in the hospital.
Had to be scary as shit.
Oh, 100%. That was probably one of the first times I really experienced anxiety. My heart just started pounding. I started freaking out, looking around. My mom looked at me and was kind of trying to calm me down. Didn't tell me exactly what happened yet. She was just telling me it's going to be okay. After about a day, when I calmed down, she kind of finally told me, hey, you fell out of the 4-story window. And I'm like, what the a lot of cuss.
4 stories.
A lot of cuss.
Yeah, of course.
I was like, what the, I was like, what
no,
the
tear it up. Yeah,
I was like, what the fuck?
We're free here, man.
Okay,
Yeah.
I was like, what the fuck? Like, what do you mean, you know? And she didn't know, the people I was with, she didn't know them too well. So she kind of didn't know. She thought it was some funny business that went down. So she had an investigator, check the place out, all these things to put things together. And at that time, it took me about 3 weeks to recover. You know, I was in the hospital doing recovery, and I didn't really even know what happened either. It took me years to finally piece together what I thought happened, you know, through stories of people who were there and things of that nature. And then through that recovery process, I was going through physical therapy, and that's where I decided, I was like, man, I want to do something like this for other people. Because falling from 4 stories, you know, I've heard stories of people falling 2 stories and dying.
Yeah, man.
So I felt very grateful that I was able to make it, and through my physical therapy is what helped me come back to life. So as I thought about becoming a physical therapist, I had to get real with myself. That's a lot of school, and I hate school.
Yeah, me too. Exactly.
And, you know, you got to become a doctor. It's to the levels. It's years.
Right.
So I was like, you know what? How do I bring it down a notch? Physical therapist assistant. Okay. That seems more doable. 2-year program at CSN they had and all these things. But even then, you got to do prerequisites, then the 2-year plan. So it took me like 4 years. And I was just being stubborn. I was like, you know what? Maybe personal training is a stepping stone for it, to where I can help people who feel rock bottom, how I felt when I was on the hospital bed, unable to move my body. And then that's the route I went. And then here I am. I kind of just told it shortly. That way you have space to ask questions, or whatever the case may be. But
yeah, so I mean, like, one of the things that I want to go back to is Las Vegas.
Yeah.
So this place in itself is amazing and fun, but it's also incredibly dangerous.
Yes.
Because when I moved here in 2012, I moved from South Carolina, like we talked about. But I came into this new environment of all the drugs that were available and the heavy partying. And it seems like so many people get caught up in that circle because it's the easiest thing to do. And it's like when we start surrounding ourselves with our friends who do that as well, it's easy to get caught up in that process. You know what I mean? And I think it's just very interesting how the people that we surround ourselves with, often we don't see the impact that they really have on us, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And when we get tied up in kind of the stuff, it like either you have a wake up moment where something horrible goes wrong, like you fell out of a 4-story window.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the thing that shakes us out of that moment. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and it's unfortunate that it does have to come to that for some people. You know, I wish some people wake up sooner. You know, I don't want nobody to have a tragic accident like me. Like, I wish I didn't have to go through that to wake up. And even then, I didn't wake up fully. You know what I mean? Once I recovered and everything was good again, I went back to the same shit I was doing. You know, I went back to partying and drinking and things of that nature. And one thing, because I do have a life coach, and one thing I talked to her about it, and one thing that kind of in the back of my mind always, I guess, bugged me or rubbed me the wrong way, was that to this day, nobody who was around me or close to me ever like sat me aside or said, hey, you almost died drinking too much.
Yeah.
Maybe you should chill. No. You know what I mean? Not once. And she brought to my attention, like, well, it's kind of hard because for them to do that when they're in it with you.
Yeah.
And it made so much sense. I'm like, oh, yeah, they're drinking with me, so why would they think I have a problem? You know what I mean? And once I came to the realization, I was like, wow, that's so true. You know, I don't hold it against nobody, no friends or anything who were next to me or didn't stop me, you know, because at the end of the day, you got to save yourself.
Yeah. I mean, I just think it's so easy for us to get caught up in the process of always just partying. You know, the one thing that I think when we're younger, especially, it's so easy to party because we don't really have like a purpose in mind, right? It's just like the things that we consume ourselves with when we're doing cocaine and we're doing drugs and we're drinking every single day. It's something that gets us through today. And often when, you know, as I've experienced and getting a little bit older, we recognize that kind of stuff doesn't serve us, right? And because it holds us back from getting to the next level, which is a big kind of like maturation process for a lot of us.
Yeah.
Because I've had scary experiences as well, where if you know anything about Las Vegas and you know like what the fraternity sorority scene is here, we don't go out to bars, but we go out to some of the biggest clubs in the world.
Yeah.
And one of the stories that, you know, was really scary for me was one night, me and my friend went to Surrender. If you're from Vegas, you know all about Surrender. On Wednesday nights back in the day, 2014, 15, 16, everybody would link up at the Encore, hang out in the parking garage. We'd kill handles of alcohol. Then we'd go into the club, get wild. And then the scariest thing was we would all drive home. And one night I'm driving home, and one of my scariest moments was I was in the car with my friend, and I crashed the car while it was like 4:00 in the morning. And that was my big awakening moment. But if honestly, now I think about it, and nothing against my friends or anything like that, but at the time, nobody ever said, dude, you guys could have died. It came to the process of showing up at the party the next weekend, and everybody was like, what happened? Oh, that's crazy. Take a shot. You know what I mean? And like, that was something that I reflect on since our conversation at the coffee shop. I didn't have anybody in my life as well that kind of like shook me and was willing to say like, yo, wake the fuck up.
And sometimes it's crazy because with the alcohol, it's so socially acceptable to where, in that, for example, what you said, it's almost like I wasn't there, but people probably like, oh my God, well, you made it. Let's take a shot to celebrate. You know what I mean? Because I know for me, once I came back to life and I was healthy again, that kind of was the feeling I had. Like, hell yeah, I made it. Come on, let's celebrate by taking shots.
Yeah.
And when I think back on it, I'm like, how stupid could I have been? You know, like I almost lost my life because of my relationship with alcohol. I'm going to celebrate by drinking more alcohol. But yeah, it's just interesting.
Man. So let's talk about kind of your accident a little bit. So falling out of a 4-story window, scary as can fucking be.
Yeah.
And if you know anything about Vegas, it's not exactly like we have a lot of grass everywhere.
No,
you know what I'm saying? So like you fall out of a window. What is the story that people have told you about finding you that night?
So that night, like I said, my friends lived at Rebel Place, and they lived on the 4th floor. It's roommate style, 4-bedroom. It was 3 of them that lived there, and there was an extra room, which was, we broke it open, and I would crash there whenever, you know, hungover, but stay the night if we were partying or the case may be.
Yeah.
So we go to the party bus. Like I said, the last thing I remember was drinking Quavo, Hennessy, smoking a blunt. That's the last thing I remember. The story I was told was, hey, we came back to the house, we went upstairs, after party vibes, we're drinking. I got very drunk. They put me in the room to go to bed. Now, the door's broken. So I think what happened was they came in and were trying to fuck with me while I was asleep. So I woke up, slammed the door shut, so they would stop fucking with me. Middle of the night, they say they can hear me knocking on the door because I couldn't get out. It was locked. You needed a butter knife to open it.
No bathroom in there either.
There's a bathroom, yeah.
Okay.
There's a bathroom.
Gotcha.
So I'm knocking on the door. They can hear me. And there's actually a video. One of them, my friend still has it, but footage of them going to open the door, kind of like a prank vibe, like, oh, let's see what he's doing. He's knocking on the door. They open the door. They look at a small room. They look in the room. They look in the bathroom. They don't see me. The window's open. You can just hear the phone drop and then hear them running out. So they look over, I guess, out. I'm assuming they looked out the window, saw me, and then went down there.
Yeah.
What I'm thinking has happened is, because the window was the corner of the building, is that I panicked because I couldn't get out, and I thought I could climb down. Like shimmy down from the corner of the wall type vibe. And obviously I didn't make it. And like most people say, you know, people in accidents or anything like that when they're drunk, it's kind of good they're drunk because your body's so...
You're loose.
Exactly. So because of that, I think that's part of the reason why I was able to survive when I fell. And I'm pretty sure I landed on my right side of my body, because the right side of my body, to this day, is still very tight. But all my ribs on that side, almost all my ribs were broke. My clavicle fractured, spine fractured. I had brain swelling. And had like these crazy not scars, but scratches down the whole right side of my back. It looked like Freddy Krueger just went shh. I'm guessing from either the bushes, something. One of my friends found me, tried to administer CPR. Ambulance came, took me to the hospital, and then they had me on life support pretty much, and told my mom, like, you know, we don't know if he's going to wake up. If he does, he might not remember you. He might be in vegetative state. We don't know. And I was on it for about 3-4 days, and then I came to life. And I looked around. I remember my mom. I remembered everything up until the point of the party bus. Moving forward, I don't remember nothing after that. So I was very grateful after being able to wake up, you know what I mean? Because it could have went a whole another route. I could have literally been, I think, paralyzed, to be honest.
Yeah.
I've heard of less accidents happening to people and them paralyzed. Like I was just listening to Inky Johnson on the way here. If you know Inky Johnson?
Yeah, absolutely.
His story, going for a standard tackle that you do every time in practice, your whole life, you're in college, boom, and now you're paralyzed on your whole right arm, you know, like a standard tackle. Here I am falling from a 4-story window. Not to compare stories, but just I understand
how lucky you were.
Basically how lucky I was to still be here, and then to become a trainer of all things. You know, physically I'm able to run, jump, do everything anybody else can do. Low back pain, things of that nature, but that's a small thing that I had to deal with compared to what it could have been.
Yeah, I mean, in the grand scheme of stuff, man, like you said, so many people have less fortunate accidents, you know what I mean? And they're paralyzed for life and their entire life changes. Mm-hmm. So the one thing I want to talk about now is the experience of having all of those injuries, brain swelling, broken back, ribs, all tore up. You have to basically learn to do everything again.
Yeah, so I had to learn how to walk again. When I was in the hospital, I just made a decision that I wanted to get out of there. Mm-hmm. I was there for about a week, and it was just horrible, to be honest. I couldn't move my arms. My mom had to cut my food up because all the medications and stuff. I wasn't using the restroom. I had a stomach tube. Didn't shower when I was there. And it was just a horrible experience, just sitting there watching Tyler Perry movies every day. Mm-hmm. Literally is what I was watching. I don't know why. But and after about 1 week, we started physical therapy in there. I started by playing with Play-Doh. I had to just get a Play-Doh cup, take the Play-Doh out, move it in and out. That's all I could do. After a few days, upgraded to little bands to get my upper body moving. And I just made the decision in my mind, like, you know what, I'm about to really give great effort during this rehab to get out here by Christmas time. Because this was around the end of November 9th, 2014 it happened.
Yeah.
And I was in there for Thanksgiving, which was horrible too. And after about 3 weeks, they gave me a walker. I was able to start walking like that, and they discharged me. And I went to physical therapy for about maybe 2 months straight before I was able to get rid of my walker. And at that point, once I was able to get rid of my walker, I was back in the streets, man. I'm not going to lie to you. Once I felt comfortable and confident with it again, because at first I was scared to even leave the house because you never think that would happen to you, falling out a 4-story window. So I was literally scared to leave the house thinking, like, what else can happen? Like, scared. And then, yeah, man, that's the journey right there.
Man, it's like sometimes the universe resets us, you know what I mean? When we need to be reset. And the feelings of insecurity, I would say, of having to kind of reevaluate what's going on in those moments, you know what I'm saying? And like putting confidence back in our process is very difficult. So when you say you were back in the streets, what does that mean?
I would say, and that's a crazy term to use, but just back out having fun with friends again. I think by that birthday, it was 2015, like 25th birthday, I was back to drinking already. Yeah. So literally less than 6 months after my accident. And my whole thing was I was just lying to myself, telling myself, well, as long as I don't black out,
I'm fine.
You know what I mean? Let me just be in control. I literally stopped drinking for maybe 3-4 months. And I think for sure by my birthday, I remember April, because I was out at a hookah lounge, back to drinking. Yeah. You know, and back to doing it the same exact way. Like there were some days where I was just tipsy, but blackouts happened again. You know what I mean? And nobody stopped me.
Yeah. Man, it's just, it just talks about, you know, at one point in time, you start to realize why it's so important to surround yourself with good people. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And start kind of pursuing your own passions. I want you to kind of dive into the process of your aha moment where you were starting to think about maybe I shouldn't be surrounding myself with these types of people anymore. And what did that kind of process look like for you?
So I think for me, once I decided to stop drinking, I made that a conscious decision because I became an independent trainer, so working for myself. Mm-hmm. And before that happened, there were situations to where I was getting too drunk and too hungover and couldn't perform my job at a high level. Yeah. You know, I was working at a group fitness gym called Orange Theory, and there were times where I had to call in because I was too hungover, had an anxiety, and couldn't work. It happened 2 weekends in a row. I remember it happened 2 weekends in a row right before my birthday. Where I had to call in on a Monday. And I wanted that third Monday off for my birthday. Before that happened, they pulled me into the office. And we're like, what's going on? Like, 2 weeks in a row, you've called in to get covered. And I had to be honest. It was embarrassing. Mm-hmm. And I was just like, yeah, man. I didn't tell exactly what it was. I just said that I was dealing with anxiety, which I was. Yeah. And it was hard for me to work. But I didn't tell them the anxiety was coming from the alcohol that I was over-consuming. Yeah. So that was a wake-up moment. And then there were times where I had just started training people privately on the side. I remember there was times where I canceled sessions the morning of because I'm hungover. And I got mad at them. I'm like, man, you're really letting alcohol get between you and something you want to do and also money. You know what I mean? It's not fair to that person. They can't come train now because you can't control yourself when it comes to drinking.
Is that what happens? So like you cancel the sessions. That means that person can't train either.
Yeah. So I was working Orange Theory, but I was also training people independently on the side, privately on the side. So I'd wake up like on a Saturday morning. I'm like, oh, I'm kind of fucked up. No training today. You know, I'm not feeling well.
Yeah.
And to me, that was just not ethical, and this is not who I wanted to be anymore.
Yeah.
So towards the end of the year of 2021, I was like, you know what? I want to stop. You know what I mean? I want to stop drinking. Had one last hoorah. I went to like a Rolling Loud festival with some friends. And even then, I was hungover and I was feeling it. And I'm like, this ain't it no more. Like, being hungover for days, it just sucked. So I think Christmas was my last day drinking. I got messed up with my friend. I went to Roberto's Christmas Day, got some food. We just got fucked up for like a day and a half. And that was my last time drinking. And once I became sober, I don't know, my mind just started changing of what I wanted in life, what I wanted to do. And I went into solitude. You know, I removed myself from any activities that weren't going to help me be a better trainer at the time. And I would gradually hang out with my friends again, here and there, you know what I mean? And a lot of this events that we would hang out with involved drinking.
Yeah.
And being around people when you're sober and they're drunk, you can easily get annoyed because you know, and I was like, damn, that's how I used to be. And the more I got sober, the more I just realized that's not what I wanted to do or be around anymore because it wasn't serving me. Like, I'm going to use my free time to get drunk and forget who I am. You know what I mean? It's almost like escaping. It's what we all do.
Yeah.
We're escaping the Monday through Friday. And I didn't want to do that anymore. I wanted to use my weekends to be productive. So I started holding boot camps. It was a way to keep myself accountable. Like, okay, you got boot camp tomorrow morning. You told these people you're going to be doing it at 8 a.m., 9 a.m. If I drink tonight, I won't be there tomorrow.
Right.
So it was almost setting myself up for success in a sense. And that's how I did it, man. And I kind of lost track. But you said about...
I mean, just surrounding ourselves with these people, the types of choices that we're making. You know what I mean? And the one thing I want to kind of dive in here is, you know, when we are younger, we think that we have to put ourselves in these situations to drink with others because it's what everybody else is doing. Do you know what I mean? And like me and you, when we sat down for coffee, we started talking about our life goals and the things that we want to accomplish. And you, by far, do not have regular person dreams. You know what I mean? And unfortunately, when we have that recognition, there comes a time where we have to really start cutting people out of our fucking circle because we're not going to be able to spend time fucking around the weekends, drinking on a Thursday, which turns into a Friday, which turns into a Saturday, not being able to show up for the people. So I love the fact that you used like your boot camps as an accountability factor, right, to show up for other people. And that held you in a higher standard, but also, I'm guessing, created a little bit of friction between you and your friends like you were talking about.
Yeah, I mean, as time went on and like I said, my goals and ideas of what I wanted to do changed. And there's nothing wrong against, nothing against people want to drink, you know, do your thing.
Yeah.
But at some point, you got to want more to life than just that. And some people don't, you know, and I don't hold it against them. That's what you want. But for me, I don't want to just be another fitness trainer or anything like that. I went through some real shit throughout my life, not just my accident, but being homeless as a kid, overcoming that, falling out a 4-story window, losing a best friend, losing my grandfather to dementia. Like, a lot of things have happened to where it's like, I just want to impact others who are going through things. Because there's people who went through similar things I went through, things worse, things not as bad, and are struggling to make it. You know what I mean? It's hard. Life's hard. And for whatever reason, I've been gifted the strength to be resilient through all of these hardships. So I want to use that, my energy, my voice, to help others understand they can make it too. You know what I mean? And that they're not alone in this. And like I said, as I got sober and sober, more and more, and it was when I got around people who were doing things I wanted to do. For example, there's a gentleman I met. His name is Devontae Woodson. He has a nonprofit organization here in Vegas where he offers and brings after-school sports to elementary schools so they can play for free. Low-income areas who can't afford it. That was me as a kid. Homeless, couldn't afford playing sports. One guy, random white guy, came up to me and my friends at a park, offered us to play ice hockey. We all looked at him like, what do you mean ice hockey, bro? Like, what?
Yeah, we don't do that.
We don't do that. Yeah, like, what? And it was a free program run by Disney. All we had to do was show up once a week, learn about hockey, and we would play one game a week for free at the Mighty Ducks practice facility. And I think that right there helped set the tone for how my life was going to go. Because if I didn't do that for 3 years, who knows what I would have done being a homeless kid. Like, life sucked. that was like my little bit of hope, something to look forward to, I guess I'll say, through the week as being homeless. So as I surround myself with Devontae, I was like, man, he was my age, maybe a little younger than me actually, but he has his own nonprofit helping inspire and change the kids. And I'm like, man, these are the kind of people I want to be around because they're doing ultimately the things I want to get into and do, to live a grander life. And yeah, and it's just at that point I realized a lot of my relationships I had were based off just longevity, knowing a long time is comfort, which nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
But I don't want to keep drinking anymore like that. Every time we hang out, we shouldn't be just drinking and gossiping, talking about what celebrities or other people are doing. That's not serving me anymore. 32. We did that at 22. Why are we still doing the same shit? And that's where I'm at.
Yeah. I mean, it's like when you start getting around other people, when you start getting around other successful people, they start challenging like your worldview. You know what I'm saying? It's like, what is possible? What things are necessary to get to those different places? And I love the fact that you experience, and one of the biggest things that I think as being a little bit older now is like when you see someone who's younger than you or the same age and they're fucking killing it, it lights a fire underneath you. Because it's like, what am I not doing? And that sense of comparison is something that is a huge driver. I've been around other people who have been successful. One of my best friends' name is Dante. When we were like 27, he was absolutely killing it. And he's making a ton of money every single month, doing marketing, stuff like that. But one of the things that I remember about him is he would lock himself in his room and we would be going out, doing different stuff. And Dante would be like, hey guys, I can't go. I got to get done. I got to get this work done. You know what I mean? And like, he was one of those people that reset my thermostat for what it takes to be successful. And I started naturally comparing the people around me to what he was doing.
Yeah.
And they weren't doing the same stuff. And eventually I had that conversation with myself. It's like, if I'm going to be successful like this kid, then I need to start modeling what he's doing, because I'm never going to be able to continue to be out here in the streets like we talked about, just messing around and drinking and just putting our energy into things like talking about celebrities and stuff like that. Like, society today is so distracted with other people rather than focusing on ourselves. I heard this one guy, his name was Sam Evans, one time. He said, I don't understand why people sit around and watch sports all day, because everybody's like, these guys are making hundreds of millions of dollars. And we want to sit there and just watch and consume and veg on watching them do their thing, rather than putting in the work and the effort of what it takes to become one of those people. And that's something that always speaks to me in the back of my mind. It's like, dude, if you want to be one of those 1%ers, it naturally means you can't do the 99% of the stuff that everybody else is doing.
And it's crazy you say that, because I heard a quote from one of my favorite speakers, Eric Thomas, and he said something along those lines. He was saying, you're broke, but you're still trying to look to be entertained. He's like, I'm sure the people who created Game of Thrones and all these shows, they don't even watch it as much as you watch it. You're broke, but you're sitting at home watching all the episodes, all the sports. And it hit me hard one time. And I was, it was early in my fitness journey, in my fitness coaching journey, before I even went independent, to where I stopped watching sports as seriously.
Yeah.
I'm a huge Cowboys fan. And it sat with me. I was like, man, I really sit and make time, change my schedule, will call off work or whatever the case may be to make it to watch football Sundays. I was like, damn, how come I don't give that hour to myself? I literally, about 2 years ago, I made the decision. And I was like, fuck that. I'm doing it now. So I would purposely not watch the Cowboys game, even if I was free, just to see if I can do it. Lakers as well. Stop watching sport. I really just stopped watching sports. And it helped me, because now to this day, I like watching it here and there.
Yeah.
But I'm not as invested anymore of, I'm going to move everything around my life schedule to watch it. No. I'm going to work, do what I have planned. And if I got the free time and the game's on, cool, I'll watch it, before I go to bed or something like that. And I'll say these things to certain people, and it's just crazy. People who think, I don't know that I'm crazy or something for thinking that way, but this majority of people will literally go out their way, make time, call off work, switch up everything in their schedule to make sure they watch that UFC fight, to make sure they watch the Super Bowl. But they really rarely give themselves even an hour, 30 minutes of self-improvement. Yeah. Which could be an hour to cook your food, so you don't have to eat out. An hour to read that book you've been talking about. An hour to start that course. Something that's going to help you get out of the position you're in and get you to where you want to be. Yeah. I was at VCon this year, and I was listening to Jesse Etzler talk about a 10-minute rule. And he was like, if you just spend 10 minutes a day trying to hone your craft at whatever it is, trying to be a better marketer, a better trainer, whatever that is, for an entire year, you will find yourself in that
1 to 10% group. You'll be a top 10% performer, but often we distract ourselves with all this other kind of shit that's going on that we don't put ourselves in the position to win. And it's like, oh, I just don't have the time to do it. And it's like everybody's got the same 24 hours. So what's the difference between a Jeff Bezos or an Elon Musk or somebody who's successful that you look up to? It's they're spending their time honing their craft and becoming better at what they do. They're not sitting around blindly, aimlessly just consuming Netflix and all that kind of stuff. And it's like, I wonder why everybody wants to bitch about how far they have to go to be successful, because you guys are wasting all of your time. You know what I mean? And that's just like something that I think more people need to realize. It's like, if you want to get to the places you need to get to, you don't have time for the other kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. I was sitting on the treadmill this morning talking with my friend as we were getting our cardio in before our lift, and he was saying, we were watching the kids who were being drafted this year for the NFL, mm-hmm. and they were talking about the top 10 rookies. And he looked over at me and was like, dog, I don't even know who any of these kids are. And then he quickly shot back and was like, but we shouldn't. Because why are we going to spend our time consuming stuff, learning about these kids and how successful they're going to be, while we're just going to sit around and sit on our fucking hands? You know what I mean? That doesn't make any sense.
No, yeah, I've been trying so hard to get out of that. I call it consumer mindset, mm-hmm. you know, and same thing, not being so invested in all those stuff. And we're so conditioned to do it. Mm-hmm. As you grow up and, you know, you watch sports, and it's just, at some point, you got to just hold yourself to that fire and be like, you know what, why? And ask yourself a question. Why does it even matter that I'm, you know, so invested in the pre-draft and all those things? And yeah, man, I agree. It's just, I used to be that person, get caught up in just, I know everything about everybody. You know what I mean? All the gossip. I know all the tea, as they would call it, and things of that nature. But then I'm like, bro, my life's not where I want to be. Even so now, it's not where exactly where I want to be. I'm working towards it, but it's like investing my energy and time and knowing things that aren't getting me there for what?
Yeah.
Every day on the way to work, I listen to this podcast. It's called Quote of the Day. It's by a gentleman named Sean Croxton. And he shares, every day it's a different speaker. It's a quick little 8 to 10 minute clip of somebody. And the one I heard today was Eric Thomas, and he was talking about Warren Buffett, how he wakes up early in the morning and he reads. Doesn't just read any book. He reads the financial reports of certain companies so he can learn about them. And Eric Thomas was saying, he's like, when people ask me, oh, what book should I read? And he's like, why? Why do you want to read the books I'm reading? Are you trying to be a speaker?
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? And I was like, damn,
this is good.
Yeah, and I was like, damn, that's so true. Because we hear it all the time. People always ask successful people, oh, what books do you read? What books do you read? And it's like, for what? Why do you want to know? You're not going to get where I'm at reading the same exact books unless you're trying to be a speaker. Mm-hmm. You know, you should be reading the financial report of a certain company if that's what you're trying to invest in, if that makes sense.
Yeah, 100%.
And I was like, whoa, that's so true. Because I've been that person caught up looking at Jeff Bezos, whoever the case may be, who I see successful, trying to read their books. When in a sense, I'm not even trying to do what they're doing. You know, I'm trying to be the best fitness coach, a speaker, and help inspire the world. So I need to be reading books that are going to help me communicate better, help me learn how to project my voice better, and things of that nature, if that makes sense.
Yeah. But one of the things that I like to talk about as well, and I hear this topic is becoming more and more popular, at least the stuff that's being presented to me, right? Talks about the difference between reading and implementing. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's a terminology which I shared when we had coffee the first time. It's called mental masturbation. You know, people today feel like they can sit on YouTube and they can watch the inspirational, motivational videos. They can read a book a week. But it's like, if you're consuming all that information, to go back to that consumer mindset you were talking about, and you're not actually implementing that stuff to get better, you have no shot at getting any further towards your goals. It's like, you can sit on all the knowledge in the world, but you can't read about doing push-ups. You know what I mean? And like, I love that analogy because it's like, there's so many books out there that everybody says, you got to read these if you want to be successful. But at the end of the day, unless you're putting that craft to practice, you're not getting any closer anyway. You're just kind of like loading up the gun, but you're not firing off any bullets.
Information hoarders.
Information hoarders.
That's what it's called. I learned that term, information hoarders. They get all the information, hoarding it in, but not putting it to work. Like this year for myself, I've only read one book so far.
Yeah.
And for me, at first I was hard on myself. Until right now, to this very moment, I thought about it as you say this. It was one book. It's called Crucial Conversations. I read it because I was trying to learn how to communicate better, not only with my clients, but at the time I was seeing a girl, and I just want to be able to communicate better as a person. And I still haven't mastered everything in it yet. So I'm glad that it's the only book I've read and I go back to. And I've been practicing the tools it's giving me. It gives you to, you know, have crucial conversations, how to communicate better when the stakes are high and emotions are running strong, you know, like those those conversations you got to have that are tough that we avoid.
Yeah.
Whether it's with a girlfriend, a boss, classmate, friend, those tough conversations. And yeah, so it's just an example back to what you said. Like, I want to read more books, but I'm like, I haven't even perfected that one to a T yet. Like, I honestly need to go back and read it again, chapter by chapter, because it's easy to forget things.
Yeah. And it's like, if you're not practicing it, right, you're never going to you put yourself through that process of iterating, right? And that's the one thing that I see so many people doing. It's like, hey, I'm just going to continue to read these books, but I'm not practicing what I'm preaching. You know what I mean? And that implementation process is really tough, and it's the scary part. You know what I mean? So I love the book, Crucial Conversations. I actually have that on my list now since we talked about that. I know there's a couple others as well that you suggested to me.
Yeah, Crucial Accountability and Crucial Confrontation.
Yeah.
They all have the same basis, you know, same core of things you need to do to have those type of conversations and those type of things. But they're I've only read the first one, and I read some of Accountability, which I want to use because it's my job to keep people accountable.
Yeah.
I want to make sure I do it in a healthy way. I don't want to just motivate people like, come on, you fucking said you were gonna do this. And like, that's tired, bro. It's deeper than that. You know, it's more mental than that. Like, there's a reason why that person's not adhering to what you're telling them to do. So get deeper with them, get to learn them, as opposed to just trying to guilt trip them into staying accountable.
Yeah. And I think one of the best places to start is having those crucial conversations with ourselves.
Ooh, yeah.
So one of the things that I've been focusing on and kind of really sticks in my mind consistently is I'm tired of having the same conversations with myself. One of which is, how many times are you going to quit? How many times are you going to tell yourself that you should have done this, and then you end up 2 weeks, 1 month, 6 months, a year later, and you look back and you're like, man, what would have happened if I never would have stopped? And sometimes having those crucial conversations with yourself is one of the most important things that you can have, because at the end of the day, if you can't keep it real with yourself and you can't implement the things that you talk about coaching yourself, you're never going to be successful. And that's one of the things I think everybody's really good at, is coaching others, but not taking their own advice.
100%.
You know what I'm saying?
I was just talking to another colleague of mine who I work with. He's a coach as well. His name is Ryan. He's great. We talk about that all the time, how it's so easy for us to coach others, you know what I mean? To keep them on point and give them advice and give them tips. But then when it comes to ourselves, we give ourselves so much leeway.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Wow. Yeah.
I mean, like, it's easy to tell ourselves that, you know, we don't have to wake up. We don't have to do these things. And when we were sitting down for coffee, I shared that video of Conor McGregor with you. And he talks about keeping promises that we make to ourselves before we keep promises to other people. And it's like, when you wake up in the morning and you know you're supposed to wake up at 5 a.m. and your alarm goes off, but you hit the snooze button, you sleep until 6:30, you're starting your entire day off with a broken promise to yourself. Ooh. And that kind of stuff just continues to compound on itself. And at the end of the day, if you're thinking about being the best version of yourself, you have to hold yourself accountable to the things that you say. And when we don't do those things, it kind of just infiltrates our mindset. You know what I mean? Because one bad decision turns into, well, I'm just going to take the day off. And then that turns into 2 days. And then it's just like an easier place to be able to not stand up for the promises that you kept that you made to yourself, but also holding yourself accountable towards what you need to get done. Because like this game of life in general, nobody's coming to fucking save you. Nobody. You know what I mean? And that's one of the conversations we had together. It's like, being a guy, especially in this world of mixed ethnicity, people are looking to you to prove yourself. I don't know how many people are going to turn around and be like, I'm going to give you the opportunities of the world just because you're deserving of so. That doesn't happen. Do you know what I mean? Like, you have to go out and you have to grind and get your own shit done if you want the things that you say you really do.
No, that's good.
It's just wild to me, man. You know, one of the other things that I've been thinking about a lot is the process of self-improvement and self-development. I saw a post on LinkedIn the other day where somebody, and of course there's always going to be two sides. And one of the things that I really worry about in society today is how many excuses we make for ourselves. And somebody made a post about self-improvement as being a trap, because we always are going to find reasons and things that we can improve on ourselves, and we shouldn't be doing that because that's unfair. And that really kind of made me perk up, and I was like, that's interesting, because that comes from my perspective of a mindset of somebody who's not trying to get to the next level. You know what I mean? It's very easy to settle, but when we start making these social excuses for ourselves and we don't want to push ourselves to that next level, even through something of personal improvement or self-development, that becomes a really slippery slope. You know what I'm saying? So like, what do you think about people who are like, self-development's a trap and you don't have to improve yourself. You're good enough as you are today. Like
you said, I think that's somebody probably who's just going to settle and be okay with wherever they're at in life.
Yeah.
which is okay for some people. I just think as humans, I think we're here meant to help others.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, that's it. And how do you help others? By improving yourself. How am I going to help you if I'm not right mentally?
Yeah.
If I'm not improving my communication, how can I communicate to you to help you become better? If that makes sense. If I'm not working on myself physically, trying to improve my health, how can I help you work on yourself physically? So I think that's really why we're here. That's why I see it, because life is hard. I think community is important. So that goes back to what I'm saying, is though we're supposed to here be to help each other.
Yeah.
So I think self-improvement 100% is needed, because there's so many different ways you can improve, because we're so conditioned since being a kid to be a certain way, live a certain way. The different kind of traumas you have as a kid, some things you had no choice in, but it happened. So I think it's self-improvement. Part of that is healing those things, Even if you don't want to be the richest person in the world, you want to be there better emotionally for your partner, for your kids. So self-improvement, I think 100% is a must, no matter what, because self-improvement is different ways. Financially, physically, spiritually, mentally, emotionally. There's so many levels to self-improvement. That person is just is interesting.
Yeah. Do you think that stance of self-improvement today is because we see so many other people in their living experience? Like when I think about self-improvement, I feel like this is something that's become popular, at least from my lifetime, in the last 10 years.
Yeah.
Right. You see people who are coaches, people who want to push you to get to the next level, yada, yada. But it's like the world that we live in today, there's so much opportunity to become better that it doesn't jive with the old mindset of like, you just find a job when you're 20 years old, you work until you're 60, and then you retire and die. You know what I mean? There's so many opportunities for you to continue to improve emotionally and physically and as a leader and as an individual and in your relationship, that I just see like there's an abundance of areas that I'm still trying to push out in my own realm to become the best version of myself. And I feel like that's something that maybe the older generation doesn't really understand, because they always were taught, you just show up, you work every single day, you do these type of things. But it's like, I just don't really fuck with that mindset anymore.
No, yeah, now we're able to see more information and more things.
Mm-hmm.
So you're able to see more people's success and see more people's self-improvement. Before social media, you would only hear word of mouth of certain things. You know what I mean? And like you said, it was a conditioned way to live. You go to school, you get your degree, find your wife, get married, work your 9 to 5, retire at whatever age, and then boom. And now we're with social media and just us. What do we consider, millennials?
Yeah, we're millennials. Yep.
We're starting to change that idea. You know what I mean? We're starting to learn you can really work for yourself. You can start being creative, get paid for being creative, as opposed to just being forced to live a certain way. That's how you become depressed and hate life, bro. Like working a job you literally hate, but you have no choice because that's how you're gonna make money.
Yeah.
You never had a chance to hone your skills and be creative.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's a job and way to make money with everything. TikTok, YouTube, all that is a proof of that. I saw an interesting commercial. I think it was a TikTok commercial. Was it Super Bowl or something? It had to have been, because it was an interesting commercial. It was Tony Hawk, I believe.
Okay.
And it was, wow, what was he doing? Skateboarding, doing something crazy. But I can't even go into it because I can't remember it at all. But the basic message was that you can make money doing anything.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, if you go on TikTok and all these things, you can see people doing it. You just got to find your craft and learn how to just make money off it.
Yeah.
Not every fitness trainer is going to be super successful. There's some who are out there killing it because they learned how to talk. They learned how to sell better. And now they're able to make just crazy money by perfecting their craft and learning to, what's the word? Monetize off it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I kind of got lost for a second, but yeah.
I mean, you can monetize off anything today.
Anything.
Do you know what I mean? And the way that people monetize off of us is our attention. You know what I'm saying? One of the things that I think about from the social media landscape today is when we graduated high school, as an example, Facebook was just starting to drop. And I always use this example of like back in the day, 2009, Facebook in itself was a timeline of everything that happened in the day. If you remember what the feed on Facebook used to look like.
Yeah.
So people would hop on in the morning, they talk about what class they're going to, everything that's going on. And it would be a documented thread, right, of what was going on. And then they had to figure out how they were going to monetize that platform. And what they found was they had so many eyeballs that advertisements and selling advertising to those eyeballs was the way to make money. And now today we've seen another jump in social media because the algorithms are not designed to show you what your friends are doing like it once did. But now we're just like literally pulling the hamster wheel or the, not the hamster wheel, the roulette. Yeah. The slot machine. And we're shown things that are meant to gather our attention. And so we're shown things that are completely outside of our realm. And it's like so easy to get sucked up in that mindless consumption of that consumer mindset that you talked about. And that's something that people have to realize as well. If the product is free, you are the product.
Ooh,
you know what I'm saying?
That's good.
Yeah.
And it's easy to get caught in rabbit holes. You know, I'm not perfect. I still have my days where I do get caught in them.
Yeah.
But I've been very good at almost creating the rabbit holes I want to get into.
Yeah.
Because the way the algorithm works, I feel like you start liking certain things and that nature, that's what's going to give you. So most of my feed is fitness stuff, eating stuff, motivational stuff, things you can learn from. It ain't just random celebrity TikToks or anything of that nature.
Mm-hmm.
But I still do get caught in certain rabbit holes, like watching them mow the lawn.
Yeah.
You know, I just get mesmerized. I don't know why. I don't know why. That's been one of my things, watching somebody cut the dirty lawn and just shape it up.
Yeah.
And, you know, sometimes I'm aware. Like, I'll catch myself. I'm like, you know, it's okay. Let me get 5 minutes of this.
Yeah.
And then I'll stop.
One of the scariest posts that I've seen from just a realization of my mindless scrolling is there's a clip on Instagram or TikTok. I forget where it's at because they're all fucking the same now. But these guys are standing in a garage with a huge snowball. And they're like, we're going to throw a 50-pound snowball off the roof. And they toss it off and you see it coming down. And right before it hits the ground, somebody pops on screen and goes, look at you. You're consuming high dopamine videos once again, and you wonder why you haven't been successful because you're sitting here and you're feeding your brain all these quick hits of dopamine, and it's killing your motivation to do the things that you're actually supposed to.
Damn.
Yeah, dude.
That's deep.
And I was like, oh my God. And then instantaneously, every single time I come across it, but I don't even recognize in the moment because it's video to video. And I'm like, oh my God, these kids are throwing a snowball. And then it cuts to it. And every single time I catch that, I hop off of Instagram or TikTok and I'm like, okay, let me get refocused. You know what I'm saying?
Damn, that's good.
Mm-hmm.
That would have caught me too. 50-pound snowball sounds
Doesn't
interesting.
right,
Shit.
exactly. But I mean, the biggest thing that I think people need to start recognizing is in order to train your brain to do the things that are hard, you have to put yourself in really tough situations. And a lot of tough situations, because we live in the United States and we're all blessed as can be to have food and water and a YouTube or a podcast studio and all this kind of stuff, is you have to put yourself in those boring moments to be able to accomplish the things that you want. And it's so easy for me to, when I get bored, just like pull out my phone because my brain is looking for that change of state that is so easy to get from this little device. And I feel like that's why people have so many mental health issues. That's why people feel so isolated and so lonely. It's because we're on this diet of little tiny connections, right, of dopamine to people who we don't even know. And that turns into bigger mental health issues that we end up suffering with.
Let me look at this quote real quick because it goes back to what you just said.
Yeah.
It's so good. I had it saved. It's another thing. People, I said in my post before, people love to share the posts, read them, all that. And it's a quick motivation.
Yeah.
I drop sometimes too. I love resharing motivational stuff because I know it can help people. But the thing is, you got to take that motivation and put it to use. But most people just see it. It's a quick 15, 20 seconds. Oh, yeah, I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
But by the end of the day, they don't do it. You know what I mean? This one quote I found I forgot where I found it, in my daily journal.
Yeah.
I found this quote. Every day I journal in the morning, and it gives me a quote. And this one said, learn to be comfortable in adversity, but most important, learn to be comfortable when you're bored.
Fuck yes.
By Maxime Lagacé.
Wow.
And I thought that was fire because that's what happens. We don't get comfortable when we're bored. So we sit there, we get bored, and then we just get on our phone or whatever. And I'm like I said, I'm never perfect at all. I do all the stuff I talk about. And the reason I talk about it out loud is like I'm literally talking to myself. You know, when I post my little quotes on Instagram and things of that nature, that's me talking to myself and just sharing what's going in my head. That's gonna help you get out of your mind in the right into the right space. But yeah, like when I get comfortable or bored at home, it's kind of uncomfortable sometimes just sitting there. So then I'll put the TV on, go to YouTube, and just try to find something.
Yeah.
After like 5-10 minutes, I'm like, bro, just turn it off.
Right.
Then I'll just turn it off and just sit there with my thoughts. Thoughts start going. It sucks. It could get uncomfortable. Your mind goes all over the place. But I think it's important that people put themselves in those positions of boredom and nothing. You don't need to always be engaged in something. Especially for me, my job is requires a lot of energy.
Yeah.
You know, not just physically, but just mentally and all those things, because I got to be there present for a person. And sometimes they're dumping their stuff on me, which I don't mind. I'm there for it. I want to help them. But by the end of the day, and I've, trained 8 to 10 people, I do need that decompress. I do need to listen to nothing, hear nothing, see nothing, and be myself, feel my thoughts for the day and see how I'm feeling.
What is it like when you have people who you're training and they want to come up with all the excuses or complain about why things aren't working for them? Do you have to ever have tough conversations with people and be like, hey, listen, if this is what we're trying to accomplish?
Surprisingly enough, I rarely have come across, and I've been doing this about 4 years, a year and a half, just over a year and a half independently. And I rarely came across people who approach me with that. Excuses. I think because they know I don't know, it's just my demeanor I have, I think, and they know my story and what I'm about. And I think that's part of the reason why they come to me and train with me. It's rarely I get people who give me just BS excuses of why things aren't working. They know why. But I don't mind having those conversations with them. And there's been times where I had to text a client later on the day and almost apologize because I felt like I maybe went a little too hard on them. And they literally responded. One client in particular, and I was like, I know if I'm hard on you, I'm sorry, because she's a very sweet girl. And she's like, no, I needed it. That's why I come train with you. And I was like, you're right. Shit, you say less. Now I must really be on your ass. But not too many people. I'll see some on Instagram or something like that. People complain about certain stuff. But for the most part, no. I'm lucky enough not to come across people who give me excuses of why they can't do shit. Because I'm a solutions-based person. I don't care about why you can't. How are we going to get to the solution of it?
So one of the things that I want to kind of take this conversation in the direction of is, we've talked about it a couple times today, but let's take a little bit of a deeper dive.
Let's do it.
When you've got people in your life who are not serving who you are becoming, what kind of challenges or hesitancies or fears do you have about, especially when the people are your homies, cutting those people off and recognizing that they're not going to help you get to where you need to get to?
So what I've come to understand, I was dealing with this for a while, and I work with it with my life coach. And I think for me, what the issue comes to me of not necessarily cutting people off, but just understanding that space needs to be separated for a little bit, because not, like I said, no longer serving me. I struggle with the sense of belonging. That comes back from being homeless as a kid, not having my dad around. And I was one of those kids who was a class clown, all those things. That's why when I was partying, I loved partying, because everybody loved me when I was drunk and partying. I'm life of the party. So I always had the fear of dissociating myself with certain people, because I'm like, damn, now I'm going to be alone. Now who am I going to have? But as I become comfortable in my own skin and understanding my mission in life, it's been easier. But it was hard at first, because I felt like, damn, those are my people. But no, it's okay. Maybe this is a season where you need to be selfish and open that space up to other people. And huge shout out to your sister for connecting us. I got to give that shout out, because I literally had a conversation with my life coach one day about this. And I was just like, man, I think it's time I take away some of that space that's for certain people and open it up to others who might serve me better in what I'm trying to do in life, what things I want to become. And it was on a Friday. And I think that night, your sister sent us the DM to connect us, right? And I was like, damn. Didn't think nothing of it, but then we sat and chopped it up and had coffee and whatever the case may be. And I was like, man, these are the kind of people, you're the kind of person that I want to be connected with. You know what I mean? Just the mindset you have, what you're trying to accomplish in life, how you're trying to help and serve others. And it was just crazy that I spoke it, and it fucking happened less than 24 hours. And I was telling you, and I told your sister when I told her the other day, she almost teared up during our session. And I almost teared up when she did it, because for a long time, as confident as I am and things of that nature, my self-worth and self-love hasn't been the highest, to where even when I get compliments from people, I get uncomfortable. Always. Oh my God, you're so strong. Thank you for shit. And I get very uncomfortable. For whatever reason, I just don't feel like I deserve that praise. And I'm sure it's back to my childhood. It's something I'm working on with my life coach. But I was telling your sister, it was amazing to see and know she wanted me to connect me with somebody else. It's your sister, so I know she loves you to death, and you know, you're not just some random person she's going to connect me with, you know? So she's not going to connect you with just a random guy. That she felt comfortable and confident enough to connect me with you based off just our conversations I had with her. You know, her knowing my story, knowing what I'm about, what I'm trying to do in life. And it was like an emotional moment, man, when she connected us on that DM that day. I was like, damn, I really had to sit back and just think, like, I am going in the right direction, you know? And there was times where I didn't, because, like I said, I love all my friends in the case may be, but none of them are trying to do the things I'm trying to do right now. Yeah. You know, they're not big on trying to do charity events for others or trying to do too much self-improvement. Maybe in their private life they are. I'm not going to speak on that. Maybe they do. I don't want to say they're not doing anything. But that's the space I'm in, and I always felt alienated because my mindset was different. We all get together, hang out. I don't want to sit and talk about old times. Yeah. You know, a lot of the times they would bring up the old me, and I don't want to hear about that shit. Yeah. Because the old me was broke, not where he should have been, in and out of jail, drinking crazily to mask the inner problems, you know what I mean? So yeah, that's the struggle. It's hard, you know, but it depends how you look at it. You know, I don't look at it as losing people. I look at it as just, like I said earlier, the season is just for others. Yeah. At this time.
And that's one of the biggest things I've recognized about getting older, as well as, like, at some point in time, you start to recognize that maybe these people just don't fit your season of growth. You know what I mean? And, like, hey, we can always be homies and I'm always going to be here for you. But, like, I'm really out here trying to accomplish as much as I can. And my sense of accountability towards myself, when I truly know it, right? When we really sit down with our thoughts, like you're talking about, in those moments of boredom, and you have the ability to ask yourself tough questions, the right answer pops up very quickly. And it's like, if I'm going to be doing these things like partying on the weekends and hanging out with these people, am I truly in alignment with who I'm becoming? And is that future version of myself happy that I'm spending my time with these people? Often the answer is no. Yeah. But that process, like you talked about from an alienation and that belonging perspective, is something that you have to get comfortable with. You know what I mean? Because, like, there's not a lot of people in my circle who are going to try and do the same stuff that I'm going to. And it's like, am I wasting time hanging out with you guys? More so probably yes than no. You know what I mean? That doesn't mean I have any less love for you guys, but now is my season of growth and I need to put all my chips in my bet circle. You know what I'm saying? I can't carry around the weight of what we used to do. You know, we were talking a lot about Alex Hormozy, right? Somebody who I look up to a lot. And he put out a piece of content a while ago that spoke to me. He's like, I don't travel home for the holidays anymore. Why? Because when I get around other people, they speak a version of myself that no longer exists upon me. So, like, oh man, Dorian, do you remember when we used to get, like, fucked up and we used to drink? Like, you're so crazy. Like, you get loud, you get all this kind of stuff. You can drink, you know what I mean? It's like that type of attitude. But even the people we surround ourselves and the language they use over the top of us is so detrimental, especially when it doesn't align with who we are. Like, naturally, I start to feel like I don't even know who that person is anymore. Yeah. You know what I mean? And I have to hold myself to the highest accountability because I'm not going to try and go backwards. You know what I mean? Like, there's a quote by Jay-Z. He's like, someone said I changed. It's like, yeah, do you think I worked this hard to fucking stay the same? You know what I mean? It's like, you always got to be pushing yourself. And I know that's a really scary process for a lot of people, especially when it's the homies and stuff like that. But eventually you got to recognize if people are serving you or not, and you got to cut those fucking people off, because the more time you spend with them, the more opportunities you're creating for yourself to get dragged back down into that old version of yourself.
Yeah. And I mean, for me, it was, like I said, it started back when I stopped drinking. That kind of helped me because, you know, I decided to remove myself from situations to where drinking in the beginning, where I wouldn't say I'd be enticed, but more easily influenced. Maybe like, okay, maybe one. It's been 2 weeks. You know, I can have one, you know? Yeah. So I removed myself. And like I said, I was locked in for work. I was an independent trainer, so I just work at home, you know? And after a certain amount of time and months, I feel confident to where I was over drinking. Here and there, I would sprinkle in some time with friends, you know what I mean? Like, you know, let's get together for somebody's birthday or just get together for food or whatever the case may be. But at this point now, I've been a year and a half sober, and it's just the times I do get around, and it's just the same old drinking and, like I said, talking about old times. It's just like, bro, I could be using this time just home.
Yeah, it's like, my question is like, where in the fuck are we going? Why are we talking about where we've been at? You know what I mean?
And, you know, one thing I had thought about, back to the belonging part, earlier at the end of the year last year, right? Coming up on my 1 year sober, I made a post, and I was like, yo, I'm about to hit 1 year next week or something like that. How do you think I should celebrate? And I put a poll. think the first answer was like, stay sober, drink some cucumber water. Second one, pour up some tequila. I forgot the third one is. I had about 25 or so votes. 5 voted. Everybody voted sober. 5 voted pour up some tequila. Can you guess who those 5 were?
The homies. Bro. People in your circle.
And for me, like I said, and I had this epiphany just recently, thinking about the situation. It's bugged me ever since, but I never brought it up. I never said anything because I still have that fear of sense of belonging and of they're my friends. I need to have them. Yeah. But that shit bugged me. And what did I do when it came up? We're all hanging out. The time when I read it out, laughed it off. Yeah. Like, ha ha. But that shit really cut me. Like, damn, y'all know me for years. Y'all see me almost die. You've seen our other close friend pass away, liquor involved. But it's funny to you to, oh yeah, I don't think have a shot of tequila, like, and that shit bugged me. And they're probably going to see this, and I'm glad they do, so they know. Yeah. But that shit did bug me. It cut me deep, bro. I was like, that's crazy.
I mean, and that's the biggest thing that, when we're talking about surrounding ourselves with good people, you know what I mean? The people who have your best intention at heart are never going to try and put you back in a place where you can relapse. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not saying like relapse from an addiction perspective, but if you recognize the cues that have brought out the worst behavior in yourself and some of the most detrimental moments in life, and you still got people in your circle who are like, haha, I was just fucking around. But like, you know what I mean? Like that is so disingenuous. And for me, that would be an instantaneous thing of like, I'm putting a fucking X on your chest. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And like, you can have my phone number, but don't be surprised if I get a new phone number and then you try and hit me up one day and that bitch goes green. Ooh. You know what I mean? Because like, I'm going to be on to the next one. Yeah. And man, it's just like, at the end of the day, if you're watching this video and you've got friends and listening to this and you've got friends who are trying to put themselves into the next position, your job, if you truly care and love about that person, is to push them in the right direction. You know what I'm saying? Like everybody wants to say like, oh yeah, they're doing all this kind of stuff, yada, yada. And if they try and pull you back, that is not somebody who you want in your circle. And honestly, you are a shit friend for reaching out and even putting that type of sentiment in somebody's world, because that stuff is so detrimental, man.
No, it is. And that was one thing that sat with me over the past, it's been 6-8 months now?
Mm-hmm. Because you don't fucking forget that shit.
No, I don't. And it's narrowed in my head. And it's crazy because that same night, I believe, it was a friend's like family celebration. And we're talking about something from the year before. It's talking about somebody's birthday. Like, oh yeah, last year, so-and-so's birthday. And I was like, damn, where was I at? Because they were talking about it. Yeah. And 2 of them responded and said, I don't know, you were being weird. Oh. Right? But his mom said, who barely knows me a little bit, was like, oh, he was probably working on himself. Yeah. And I had an epiphany moment. I was like, it's crazy, like the thought process people have to think of it as a negative light rather than positive. Mm-hmm. And at that point in life, when we're talking about, I was working on myself. I was working on not drinking anymore. I hadn't been completely sober, but I was trying to. And by trying, I was removing myself because I would do things as simple as, all right, well, if I'm going to drink Friday night for your birthday, or I'm not going to brunch on Sunday. Yeah. It's one or the other. You know what I mean? And I was doing little steps like that to help me pull away from the alcohol, and eventually did. But those 2 situations within, I want to say the same night, were just in my head all the way up until this day. So every time we get together and hang out, and it was reminder, and I'm just getting closer and closer. Like, okay, I need to be more mindful of how I choose to spend my energy and space. Yeah. I guess I'll put it that way.
You know, one of the things that I think about recently is leverage, and the leverage that other people have on top of you. You know what I'm saying? So when I come across tough situations and I have a choice to make about what my character, what my actions, what my behavior is going to be in that moment, I'm always trying to make the best decision for the future version of myself. And it's very selfish because I think about the character that we represent in this world is finite. You only have one piece of character. You only have one reputation. And when you protect that with all of your heart and you align your actions and behavior with that future version of your character, it eliminates leverage that people have on top of you. So a great example, let's say somebody starts talking shit about you. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? And they're pissed off for some reason and they start talking to your other friends about it, right? People who really got your back, and you've done nothing but do right by those people. how fucking crazy do they sound for trying to talk shit on you when everybody else's opinion of you is like, nah, dog, like this kid's working on himself all the time. I don't know who you're talking about, but it speaks more about those people who are willing to try and pull you back down the ladder. I saw a post on social media the other day. I was talking about when people are haters in your comments, right? Yeah. They're like, nobody who is successful in life is ever going to try and make fun of you or pull you back down or trash your name because they've got so much of their own shit going on that it's not worth it. It's only the people who are fucking behind you who are going to want to try and be like, oh, that guy's a piece of shit. He drinks a lot. He does all this kind of stuff. And it naturally kind of, if you're really good, puts an indicator in that person of like, this guy's a piece of shit. You know what I mean? Like, that guy's not shit if he's making fun of other people or he's trying to put his friends in negative situations. Like, and that's been something I think about a lot. No,
like David Goggins said, I was telling you about too. He says, you'll never find a hater doing better than you.
Fuck yeah, exactly. That's better way to say it, man.
Yeah, you'll never find a hater doing it. It's so true. And I don't like to call people haters. I just think people aren't truly self-aware. Yeah. I think that's one of the biggest things in the world, not just social media, whatever, in the world. As humans, we need to learn to become self-aware. And you only do that by, I personally did, by going into solitude to where you're not always out every weekend. Because most people work a 9-to-5 job, right? Monday through Friday, whatever it is, 40 hours, and then you spend your free time. What do? Maybe you go home, you go right to bed, you watch a show. Mm-hmm. On the weekends, what do? You got to do your adult thing, get groceries, whatever the case may be, hang out with all your friends. You're constantly being on. You know what I mean? Rarely do people really sit to themselves and just be. You know what I mean? I think those moments are important because those are the moments where you get to talk to yourself, like you said earlier, and ask yourself those questions and learn and just be rather than always on and getting that dopamine.
Yeah. I heard a statistic the other day that said 40% of our day is habitual, meaning we're on autopilot for 24 of the 24 hours that we're alive.
Damn, that's a lot.
That's a lot. And if you think about the routine of what you just talked about of going to work from 9 to 5, coming home, sitting down, watching your Netflix, making your dinner or ordering Uber Eats, and then you go to bed and you wake up and you do the same thing over and over again. By the time you're like 35, I heard a statistic, it was like 80% of your habits are literally habitual in your brain because you've done them so many times. And no wonder people start looking back at life and they're like, damn, life just flew by, or this year went by so fast. It's because you're stuck in the same routine of doing the same shit over and over again. You know what I mean? And that scares the shit out of me.
Hell yeah.
Because it's like we have such limited time to get shit done these days that if you're not being proactive and you're not being intentional with the things that you do and you put yourself in these different types of situations, it's no wonder life flies by. And then you're going to look back with a huge like sense of regret.
Damn. That's crazy statistic.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's just like part of life, man. You know what I mean? Like motherfuckers just want to sit around all day and act like we are supposed to be given things in this life because we're in America. We're already in the top % of people who are alive today. But often people forget that you are in complete control of everything that you want to do. And so that's why I love having the conversations about self-development, because if you want the things that you want in life, you're the only person who's going to be able to get them for yourself. Yeah.
That's it. Like you said earlier, nobody's going to save you. Mm-hmm. Nobody saved my ass when I was drinking, falling out of windows, losing friends, and then came back and still drank, still got blacked out. Nobody saved me. I literally had to own my shit and save myself, you know, understand that I deserve. It's all about even learning you deserve better. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I had to realize that I deserve a better life than to just be drunk all the time. And I wasn't drunk every day, but it was like every weekend.
Enough.
And the only reason I wasn't drunk on certain days is because I had to work. Mm-hmm. So if I wasn't working, I probably still. COVID's a perfect example. How many motherfuckers were drunk a lot during COVID because nobody was working? I was one of them. Out of 7 days, I was probably drunk 4 to 5. Why not? No job, nothing to do. Mm-hmm. The only reason a lot of people don't drink as much as they probably would is because they have to work. And that's a scary thing, man. You have to really sit and think to yourself like, damn, when's the last time I went sober? People always people ask me, how long I've been sober or why I stopped drinking. And I like to think like, why haven't you stopped?
Yeah.
You know, have you really sat and thought to yourself? Because I know people personally. Like, have you really sat and thought to yourself, when's the last time you went sober by choice? Because for me, there was times where I was sober, but I was on probation.
Yeah.
I didn't want to go to jail. I had to be sober. This last year and a half, all by choice. And now it's second nature and easy. Like, I don't get enticed. It's water the bridge. I don't think I'll ever drink alcohol again, to be honest. Mm-hmm. Not even alcohol in my mouthwash.
Yeah.
I don't even do that. But yeah, that's where I'm at.
I mean, what's that sense of momentum feel like, because when people are trying to make big changes for themselves, we start on these activities, right? And then we have that little voice in our back of our head, or that itch to go drink or could do all this different kind of stuff. So what does that feeling of momentum look like for you when you are now a year out of drinking? You are talking about not being enticed and it's water underneath the bridge. Was that something that was always easy, or do you feel like that's gotten easier over time?
Over time. Like I said, you have to have a clarity, I guess I'll say, of why you're doing it, you know, and not just, oh, I'm just going to not do it this weekend just because. Like, no, have a real reason. Like, I want it to be healthier and be an example for my clients, you know, and I was able to sit back and think all the bad things that happened to me in my life, going to jail, losing people, almost losing my life, alcohol was involved. So it was like, why would I keep doing this? And initially it was hard, but like I said, I removed myself from situations to where I would be maybe enticed or influenced. And after a certain amount of time, I started realizing this just wasn't worth it anymore for me.
Yeah.
But everybody's relationship with alcohol is different. I was one of those people, I'm either blacked out or I'm sober.
Yeah, all or nothing.
That was me. There's people out there who I know. I have friends who do it. They can, you know, take a shot or two. I'm done. They know. And that's cool. If you can have your limit and know your limits, all to you. Like, do that. But me, I wasn't one of those people. So when I talk about these ways to stop drinking, it's for those people who can sit back and be honest with themselves and think like, damn, I think I have a problem. I need to stop. And it's hard to admit that problem. And it was literally after that first no to myself. When I thought to myself and I was enticed to drink, 1 weekend of me saying I was going to stop, I thought about it. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to take this on as a challenge. Rather than thinking, oh, my God, I can't drink. I was like, you know what? It's a challenge right here. First week. Can I say no? And I said no. And it just felt so empowering. Like I felt like, okay, I can do this. And as time went on, that power just grew and grew and grew. And now it's almost like a flex, to be honest. Yeah. You don't meet too many people who can say they don't drink at all. And at least some, especially that, from going from where I was at. Yeah. And it's just a flex. Like I said, there's not so many people I can meet who are sober as me. I know one I work with, actually. He's going on 2 years, which I think is amazing. But not so many people.
Yeah, man, it is a flex. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, like, you're proud of yourself. You know what I mean? It's not like that outward validation of people being like, oh, you're so awesome. But it's knowing that you can stick with something, that you align to yourself. And that power, you know, when I have those tough days, when I want to do those bad habits, I sit with those feelings sometimes and I'm like, why do I feel this way right now? What am I running from? And then when I get on the other side of that feeling, it feels so good to be like, dude, I'm proud of you. We made it through another one. You know what I mean? Like that sense of fortification of your own mindset and doing right by yourself. There's no better reward, in my opinion.
I think talking to yourself is very important. I have this book called Transform Your Life that I've been using since 2014. It's a book. It gives you a quote. She'll break down the quote and then give you some homework to do relating to that quote. And initially, I thought it was kind of dumb, some of the things they'll tell you to do. Yeah. Like every time you see the color green, give yourself a affirmation. At that point in time when I first used it, I was like, some of the ones were easier. Like, hey, today, every time things get tough, think of the glass half full rather than empty. And that's where I learned that we were conditioned minds. And I was like, what do you do when you want to have a good, better bicep, stronger, bigger arms? You condition it, you work it. So I started talking to myself more often with that book. And it helped me change my mindset on a lot of things, helped me become more open-minded. And I think it's very important to have those self-talks, like you said, instead of just sitting there and giving into that feeling of, I kind of want to have a drink. Like, why do I want to have a drink? Like, talk to yourself. Literally talk to yourself. And it'll help you make better decisions rather than making emotional decisions, just acting on that emotion. Yeah. Then you'll regret it. Like, fuck, I didn't have to have a drink tonight. I could have just been chill.
Yeah. Well, I want to end this by asking you a question, and this might be, you know, a piece of vulnerability. Yeah. But knowing you for who you are, looking at yourself from an outside perspective, why are you so proud of yourself?
I am so proud of myself because I've been, there's a few reasons. I want to say more so than anything, my resilience. That's the biggest thing I've been living by, and I think it's my stamp of who I am, is I'm a living example of resilience. You know, being homeless as a kid, it sucked. You know, falling out a 4-story window, it sucked. Losing my best friend 9 months later, it sucked. Grieving in jail for 2 months, it sucked. Losing my grandfather to dementia, it sucked. Getting dumped or whatever throughout the years, those sucked too. But, you know, knowing that I never give up on myself, I don't know why. I just wake up and I get it. I don't know. I just do every day. I'm like, you know what? Today, it's going to be better. You know, even have a good day. Next day I wake up, it's going to be better. And I honestly can't tell you where that came from, man. Like, to this day, just this inner drive in me to just always push forward. Because I always think it could always be worse. I've been and lived worse. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Being a kid, homeless, bro, it sucked. Not gonna lie. I think back on it to this day as an adult, and that's why I really want to get involved in the community and help the youth, because I don't want them to go through things I went through. Because not everybody's gonna turn out in a positive light going through that kind of hardship. There's a lot of kids who turn out and become drug dealers, pimps, whatever the case may be. So yeah, to answer the question, I would say I'm most proud of my resilience. 100%.
Well, I mean, I'm proud of you too, man.
Thank you,
man. I know like taking those compliments is tough. You know
it is.
I mean?
It's like I said, it's something I'm working with my life coach now. For whatever reason, she knows why. Obviously, she's gonna help me get through it. But that's my next challenge, is opening that thing up and figuring it out.
Yeah. Well, I just want to say thanks, man, for coming on the show, you know, hearing your story, but also giving the examples, because one thing that I always talk about is everybody feels like we're on our own journey and we're alone and nobody else understands what we're going through. But I guarantee people who tune into this episode are going to find their story in you and the things that you've been through, and the fact that you've been able to overcome everything that you've been able to. The fact that you show up every single day and help other people become better versions of themselves is something that you should be really proud of. And everybody has the ability to do those things as well. So I just want to say thanks for coming on the show, bro. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, man.
Absolutely, guys.
It was a great show.